Hello guys, and welcome to the last Rewind review of 2022. It's nearly the end of December, Christmas is over, and that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy one or two more Christmas movies. So for this video I thought that we could talk about a big Christmas movie that I have grown up with over the years. It's one of my absolute favourites of all time. It was released in 1992, and that is The Muppets Christmas Carol. Based on the novel by Charles Dickens, The Muppets Christmas Carol was directed by Brian Henson and written by Jerry Jewell. It sees the Muppets' retelling of the classic Dickens tale of Ebenezer Scrooge, who is held accountable for his dastardly ways during nighttime visitations by the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future. The movie stars all the old Muppets gang, including Gonzo, Rizzo, Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Sam Eagle and Statler and Waldorf, as well as Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. Christmas Carol is probably one of the most well-known Christmas stories that's ever been told, and there's so many different interpretations that have been made of this over the years. From TV specials to mini-series to movies to theatre productions, this is one of the most iconic Christmas stories ever told. It's been retold so many times over the years. I've definitely seen my own fair share of versions of this story, but when it comes to the Muppets version of Christmas Carol, I'd probably say this might be my actual introduction to this story. I have seen a few other movies. I have seen a mini-series with, I think it was the guy who wrote Peaky Blinders, and Guy Pearce was in it as well. That was a weird one. But when I was thinking back on my history with this movie, it did feel like this might have been the official introduction to it. I might have seen a few other things here and there, but this is definitely the one that stands out to me the most. Or at least it's the one that I think of the most when it comes to Christmas Carol. Well, that and the theatre production. I can't remember who was in the theatre version of it. I do remember being quite young when I saw it, to the point where I was kind of terrified when the third ghost showed up. But when it comes to this version, this is very much a Muppet reimagining of the entire story. So this isn't one of those ones where the Muppets are kind of like caught up in a story that involves elements of Christmas Carol. This is actually the Muppets playing characters from Christmas Carol. So this is a very much a straight up adaptation of this book. And when it comes to who the Muppets are all playing, or who each character is meant to be, I think they are absolutely perfect for their roles. Like Gonzo and Rizzo are probably my favourite Muppets characters other than Animal, but getting to see them being front and centre and being the narrator, or having Gonzo being Charles Dickens and narrating the story, and then having Rizzo basically being like the comedic sidekick to it, it's really great, and it really does help separate this from a lot of other versions. It really allows them to retell this story in a way that is faithful to the original source material, but also allows a lot more of the Muppet antics to sort of take over and just have a bit of room to breathe. Sometimes I do feel like what they get up to can be a little bit distracting, especially when they're getting up to things in the background and it sort of distracts from what's going on in the main story. But what they are getting up to is genuinely funny, and they are very memorable. And then when it comes to like Bob Cratchit and Mrs. Cratchit, I love that they have got Kermit and Miss Piggy as those characters, because they really do have the same energy that those characters do need. I don't feel like, I mean, Kermit is the face of the Muppets. Everyone knows who Kermit the Frog is. So logically you'd probably think, oh, maybe somebody like him would play Scrooge, the main character of this story, but he does not fit Scrooge in any way, shape or form, and it would be very out of character. So it makes complete sense having him be Bob Cratchit instead. And I do like a lot of the other characters that they do include in this, and the way that some of the characters that they are playing are sort of twisted into being the Muppet versions of these characters, like Fozziwig, who's Scrooge's employer, played by Fozzie Bear, and then you get Statler and Waldorf, who are playing basically supposed to be Robert Marley, but in this interpretation it is Marley, and the two of them were business partners who were working with Scrooge. It's a good version of this, and I feel like, yes, they are perfect for Marley. But then when it comes to the spirits, who are probably the most important parts of this movie, they're completely original creations, and I like the way that each of them are interpreted in this one. They're each very well realised with their own very distinct look, and it is very much an adaptation of what the characters are meant to look like. I also like how each sequence is filmed compared to each other, because they all feel very distinct and different, with the way that the past is quite bright but kind of echoey at the same time, and then we have the present, which is like really nice and colourful and warm, and then you move into the future and it's just damp and dark. It's a really great distinction between all three, and it's really adapted well into this one. And it's even quite subtle that all the transitions that they have as well, going from scene to scene, all feel very different as well. That's just like, it's a really good attention to detail that is paid in this movie, and I really do like that each spirit does feel very different. But it isn't just Muppets in this movie. We do get some actual actors making appearances in this. The most notable, of course, is Michael Caine as Scrooge. I absolutely love Michael Caine as Scrooge. I don't necessarily think he's the definitive version of this character, but he's definitely one of the better ones that we have had. He does have an intensity to him, he does feel very believable. I like the subtle things that he does, like the way that he's interacting with the Muppets. He never sort of treats it like it's just like a big play or anything. He treats it like a proper movie, and he gives a proper performance. He's able to balance out every single aspect of Scrooge as much as possible, with the way that he can be quite aggressive and quite intimidating in early on in the movie, but when he starts softening up, that change is very visible, and I think that Michael Caine's performance really does sell that. There's even this really subtle thing that he does, which I never have noticed over the years, but apparently he doesn't blink in the entire movie. I don't really understand why, but that's just a choice that they went for in this. He is really a great choice for this role. The only downside that I really have to him playing Scrooge is the actual singing stuff, because in the version of the movie that I did see for this review, which is the full-length version, he has 2 songs, and they do work around it as best they can. I feel like he is better in the first song than he is in the second one, but they do what they can to sort of not necessarily distract from it, but try and enhance it as much as they can. It does feel very within character, so it doesn't feel distracting. It isn't like Pierce Brosnan singing in Mamma Mia. This does feel very natural, even though, yeah, he definitely could have done with a few singing lessons here and there, but it is fine, and honestly, it wouldn't even bother you. I feel like all the other human performances in this movie, I feel like they are very good. There's not really much to them. They only really sort of have like their basic roles, and then that's really it. But I do think that everyone is well cast, and I really do like what everyone does bring to their roles. I might as well mention it now that I brought it up. Yeah, believe it or not, there's actually 2 versions of this movie. The difference between the 2 of them is actually just one sequence, and it's a sequence where Scrooge and Belle are together, and it's the time where they split up and they go their separate ways. The full-length version is an extended version of that, including an all-new song, and apparently this was in the original release of this movie, but they didn't put it on home release or something. I'm not quite sure on the details on that, but for some reason it was removed, and then they thought it was lost and they couldn't bring it back at all. But then with the 30th anniversary, they've actually managed to find a version of it. They've restored it, they've now put it within the movie, and it now plays in the full thing. I know Belle, within context of the story, doesn't have the biggest part to play, but it is nice actually having a bit more time with her, so you do get to see what her and Scrooge were like. And I do think Meredith Braun, who plays her, is actually really good. It is a really simple sequence, and it is really beautifully shot, and the song itself is really nice, and I think the performance from both Meredith and Michael Caine is really good, especially from Michael Caine, because I think that's definitely one of the best parts of his performance in this. It also does actually get paid off a little bit later on, and that's the thing that's left in the movie, which is a bit odd because it's kind of a reprisal of the song. The song that's removed is called When Love Is Gone, and later on during the final sequence there is actually a few lines where they start talking about where love is found, and that's supposed to be what the reprisal is. That's where the song originated from. So yeah, I definitely can't understand why it was removed, but I'm really glad that it is back in this, and it is a really beautiful scene. That is something that I do really appreciate about this movie, because when it comes to the Muppets, you expect it to be much more of a comedy, and yes, it is a comedy. There are so many comedic sequences in this that are genuinely funny, but it allows things to be a bit more emotional, and it allows things to be a bit darker as well. And I like that they try and do that, and they actually do succeed. Because Christmas Carol is a ghost story. It is kind of scary. Well, it is actually meant to be quite scary at times. So they do try and lean into it a few times here and there, but they don't necessarily go all the way with it. And I do think that they could have pushed it maybe a little bit here and there, but honestly, it's fine as is. I do appreciate they do have those darker, creepier moments, like the way that Scrooge is moving around his house all in shadows, and the way that it's all lit, and then the way that the Marleys are handled, and the Ghost of Christmas Future. It's all handled really well, but it is balanced out very well with the humour. And I feel like a large part of that is how the Muppets are included in this, because they do allow for a mixture of different genres, because you can kind of get away with it, because they do still feel quite real in the way that their puppetry is, but they can still be quite cartoony as well. Jim Henson's workshop is filled with fantastic puppeteers and voice talent, and I really feel like this is one of the best ones that they've made. It is a shame that this is the first movie that they made without Jim Henson in charge, but his son Brian Henson was the one who took over the directing duties for this one, and he has done a fantastic job, and I feel like having the Muppets being able to continue forward was brilliant. And with the way it's filmed and the way that it's staged and performed, it can feel a little bit like a stage show. I could see this very easily being adapted into a theatre production, at least like the version with the Muppets, but it still has room to be quite cinematic. I love the way that the scenery is, I love the way that all the sets are utilised and some of the imagery, its use of colours and lighting. It really does manage to capture a lot of the atmosphere and spirit that Christmas has. I really love the set design, the way that they've utilised a lot of models to really bring the city to life, and then with the added genius of Jim Henson Workshop, they're able to really bring this city to life in a way that you probably couldn't really get away with in a lot of other interpretations because of just how much is going on. Outside of a few scenes, you very rarely forget that this is a Muppets movie because there is always something Muppet going on in the background, whether it's just like characters here and there or some little gag going on or just like something in the background just to remind you that this is a Muppets movie. It is genuinely fantastic. I really do love how this movie has been made, and as I said, with all the different interpretations of this story over the years, when it comes to the imagery within this movie, like just the shot of Kermit in Bob Cratchit gear where he's just looking down the street staring up at the moon in the sky and the shooting star, that is what I think of when I think of Christmas Carol. It's kind of a weird thing to say when people ask what's the first thing you think of when you think of a Christmas Carol, and you think, a frog in a top hat. It is a very real movie. They do use as many practical effects and elements as possible. As I said, like, they are the masters of puppetry within Hollywood, and I feel like what they've done with the practical elements are brilliant as always. When it comes to a few of the effects heavy moments, like a few of the green screen sequences and some of the transitions here and there, like the Ghost of Christmas Present when he's like disappearing and he's like turning into like thin air and there's like all these stars that are appearing across his body, I feel like some of those elements do still look fine. I think that they have aged just a tiny bit, but it does add to the charm of this movie. It doesn't take you out of it. It doesn't make you question like, oh, that doesn't look right or fake or anything like that. It all adds to it, and honestly it's never bothered me. And as I said, there are definitely a few green screen sequences here and there that aren't brilliant, but they're not really that noticeable. Like, if there's a few scenes of like where you can see like Kermit when he's like skating across the ice, and it is obvious that like the puppeteers are behind him with the green screen and they've just like CGI'd them out and everything, but honestly it won't even bother you. I'm being really nitpicky right now, but I do need to stress I genuinely love this movie, and a large part of that is through the music and the soundtrack by Miles Goodman. The core soundtrack itself, not the songs, I feel it is really nice. I think it's very fitting. I think that when it comes to a lot of the different interpretations of this story, this is definitely one of the ones that I do think of when it comes to certain character beats and themes. I like how it's able to balance out some of the more hopeful, joyful moments with some of the more creepier elements. In fact, I'd say that the music really does help enhance some of the darker moments of this. Even though I do love this little bit of the soundtrack, I do feel like the sequence in the graveyard when Scrooge is confronting his future with the gravestone and the way he confronts the Ghost of Christmas Future, I feel like I could have done with just a tiny bit more weight behind it, just the way that it sort of rises up but then it sort of just like trails off. But other than that, I do think the soundtrack is absolutely amazing, especially the songs. There are some absolutely brilliant songs in this. They're very recognisable, they are hummable. The way that they're integrated into the story, the way that they actually do tell a story is really good. A lot of the Muppets movies and a lot of musicals in general do tend to have a bit of a jukebox musical number when it comes to how their songs are chosen. And when I say jukebox, what I mean is songs that already exist and they're just sort of like integrated into the story as much as they can, where it's just like a few plot beats and things like that, but they don't really add much to the story or characters. Pretty much all the songs, as far as I'm aware, are completely original, and I feel like they are absolutely beautiful. I think they are really good, very iconic. They help tell the story, they help further the characters, and I feel like they are integrated into this very well. It is a musical, so I feel like if musicals aren't really your thing, this might not be your favourite movie, but if you are, I feel like these are definitely going to be on your karaoke list over Christmas. There are other songs that are incorporated into the theatre production, and They could have been included in this, but at the same time I feel like it would have taken away the uniqueness of this film. So I really do like that all the songs are original, but if you've never heard them before, I do highly recommend checking out the songs from the theatre production because they are really good. It is really hard for me to say which version I would say is the definitive version of Christmas Carol, because as I said, like the theatre production I would definitely say is one of the best ones I have seen, but when it comes to the movies there's so many different interpretations of it that have appeared throughout the years that it is really hard to say one is better than a lot of the others. There are definitely some that are weaker or think that took too many liberties, but I feel like this one is just right, and I feel like this is definitely one of the better interpretations that we have had. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's the definitive version, but when it comes to which version I am more likely to watch when it comes to Christmas, this is it. It is absolutely a must-watch Christmas movie for me, my family, and honestly, if you've never seen it before, you've never seen this version of it before, I highly recommend checking it out. It is an absolutely brilliant version of this story. It's suitable for all ages and I feel like everyone will really enjoy it. Overall, this is an absolute Christmas classic. I feel like this interpretation of this story is brilliant. It is very well told. I love the characters, the way that the Muppets are utilised in the story. I love Michael Caine as Scrooge. I love the staging, I love the production, I love the set design, the music, the way that the spirits are interpreted, and the overall atmosphere and tone that they've gone for. As I said before, I wouldn't necessarily say this is the definitive interpretation of this story, but I will say this is definitely one of the best ones that we have had. And with all that being said, my rating for Muppets Christmas Carol is a 9 out of 10. I genuinely love this movie. It is really hard to actually do a review of this movie because it's something that I've seen so many times over the years. It's really hard to sort of have like the critical mindset that I normally have for a movie. So I don't know if I would say this is like a full-on review rather than more a recommendation than anything else, but this is as close to a movie review that I can probably really give this one. So I'm hoping it wasn't as rambly as it felt. So that's pretty much everything I've got to say for today's episode and more or less this year. So thank you so much for watching if you've been watching any of these videos throughout the year. As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, please subscribe, hit the notification button to keep up to date on everything that's going on here. Let me know down in the comments if you've seen this movie and what you think about it, and what version of this story would you say is the definitive one. Plus, if you have any suggestions for any future rewind reviews you'd like me to do, let me know. So for the last time this year, thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and I'll see you in 2023. Happy New Year.